welcome everybody back to the Better 52, and this is a commitment that we made and a challenge that was offered to me. So Renee, what would you do in 52 weeks if they said, you know, we just want to get better at selling, we want to get better at presenting, we want to get better at influence and leadership. And as we launch BetterLoanOfficers.com, I'll share with you a little bit about what our mission is, but I'm going to go back and do just a brief overview of the slides that we went over last week, but really going to be diving in specifically onto one tip today. And we're calling that tip Getting Real with Referral Partners. And so we're going to go in depth. This is going to be something that you're going to be able to take home and practice and hopefully challenge you a little bit on how you're dealing with your current referral partners and any other strategic relationship that you're looking to get more business out of. Again, just a quick overview of BetterLoanOfficers.com. We founded it back in 2013 as a review management software focused solely on the mortgage industry. And as we look, you can search, find, and review any licensed mortgage loan originator in the country. You'll find powerful tools to leverage, manage, and improve your online reputation, as well as a company portal. And currently, we are the largest directory with over 500,000 profiles. We deliver value to 3 clients, to consumers where they can find people like you on the phone, loan officers, real estate agents where they vet out who they're dealing and doing business with, those loan officers where you can control and manage your online reputation. So as Brian introduced himself, you know me, I'm going to go past that, but I just want to get into what the vision is, because this really helps outline why we're on the call here today. We created Better Loan Officers to be the voice and the currency of trust, and those 2 key words, voice and currency, as you'll see, are carried out by our very simple mission statement, which is to provide you tools that give loan officers a voice that conveys trust and professionalism. So as we think about what it is that we're looking for, trust, especially with everything that you guys have been through, is one of the hardest things to capture again. And trust is what generates referrals. Trust is what speeds sales cycle times. It's what generates even a more positive experience for your consumer, as well as even a more positive work experience. And so a lot of times we set out and create a plan. You've seen, if you were on last week's call, you saw the same visual. And we're headed in a direction, but yet our business isn't fully aligned behind us, and it feels like we're scattered on the inside. And so here, what we're here to align over these next 52 weeks are all the elements that are going to help you take it to your business to that next level. So the basic structure, and we're creating this sort of as we go with feedback from you guys and feedback from people that are on the calls and some of the clients that we talk to as to how best we can serve you. But right now, the structure that we've created is we're going to have a topic every month, and this topic is, as Brian mentioned, is professional selling. And each week we're going to have a different segment of that topic, which last week was our first week on it, where we did an overview and an introduction. And then this week, is we're doing a specific tool and a tip. Next week, we're looking at doing an industry interview with somebody, and next week, putting it all together into how we can take professional selling to the next level. The following month, it's going to be, I think the topic is the 30-second personal commercial. How do we introduce ourselves? And really, it's around getting ready for that presentation. So that's the general structure of what we're doing. But today is a specific tip that we're going to be talking about with getting real with referral partners. And the tip is called slowing down for yellow lights. This was something that completely revolutionized how it is that I do business, how it is that I generate referrals, and really is at the heart and soul of every single one of my strategic relationships and strategic partnerships that I work with. I think as you enter this world of selling, and whether you're brand new to it or you've been in this business for years, getting real is one of the most important things that you can do with yourself. And when I talk about getting real, we have to get real with how we're doing from a numbers perspective. Are we selling as much as we need to? Are we engaging the activities that we really need to be engaging in? And a lot of times I've seen salespeople take their best month and they multiply that number by 12 and forget to take out taxes, and that's what they say that they sell and that's what they make. They're not getting real. Getting real is about looking every single day at the activities that you engage in. Getting real specifically today means, are you dealing and spending your time with the people that are going to generate you the revenue and the business that you deserve? Are you in relationship with people that are reciprocating the value that you are also generating? And so the topic, slowing down for yellow lights, I'm going to just give you a quick example. When you're driving, and I'm just basically asking a rhetorical question. And by the way, at the end of this, I want to open this up for questions and specific questions. The real value of things like this comes when you bring real scenarios and real life instances and real life occurrences that are going on. And so how do we apply this concept? And so I'm prepping you now. If you have real applications, if you have real questions at the end of this, please stay on. I want to make sure that we go through those. And so if you're driving a car and you see a yellow light, what is the typical tendency? Some people, is it to slow down or is it to speed up? Most people, they see a yellow light, they want to speed up through that yellow light. So what's the psychology of that? The reason is when we're driving a car and we speed up is that we see red lights as a failure, as some sort of block to our progress. And what we're going to do today is we're going to completely reframe that concept of what a yellow light is. And I'm going to ask you to slow down for yellow lights. And I'm not talking about when you're driving. I'm talking about identifying a yellow light in your business relationships, specifically with referral partners. And so here's what I'm going to, here's how we're going to tee this up. I want to tell you a story. Years ago when I owned a mortgage company, my focus was on doing workshops and training and things like this for our referral partners and doing presentations and more of the higher level components to generate business. And one of our loan officers came to me and he asked me, he said, Renee, I've got an insurance agent that I've been working with for 10 months. And he's got a database of over 17,000 people. And we're about to land him, but can you do the company presentation for us? I'm going to bring him in to over lunch. Would you do it for me? And I was glad to do so. Anytime I see somebody engaging in an activity, more than happy to help them out. And I remember this person came in there, and man, we had, when I tell you we had a presentation, we had a phenomenal presentation. This was something that we had tried and tested and proven, so we knew that with 5 minutes this guy was going to be eating out of our hands with the things that we'd offered and what we were doing. And so as we were going, I'm presenting, and he's looking at me, my loan officer's smiling at me, this guy's engaged, and I'm having a great time. And about 10 minutes into the presentation, he says, man, this is amazing. I love working with loan officers. Now, in the normal presentation, and my loan officer was excited. He said, man, this guy loves working with loan officers. But because I'm on the lookout constantly for yellow lights, and a yellow light is anything that might give a warning sign as to a potential block to my sales process, anything that might seem that's out of the ordinary, that's not moving in the direction that I needed to move, that's when I begin to slow down. And so a yellow light is any sort of warning sign. Some people call them red flags, things that are early. We're going to call them yellow lights. And so the yellow light that he just mentioned was that he loves working with loan officers, plural. And as I listened to that, my ears perked up, and I wanted to understand, okay, what did he mean by that? And so here's why. Before I even go any further, I'm going to put a pause to that story. One of the things that we have to do when we talk about slowing down for yellow lights is the first thing, we have to reframe what failure means. Anytime, and the reason why when we drive, when we see that yellow light, we think that red light is failure. The same is true in selling. If we see something that might be a potential block, we put the gas on, we go faster, we try to get past it, and hoping that won't stop us. The challenge is that that's not the solution. In fact, there's a huge risk in doing that. And so the reframe in terms of how we think about it is to think about this is that failure is not getting a red light in selling. Failure is not getting a red light. Failure is making that red light needlessly more expensive. So what do I mean by that? If you see a red light, or excuse me, a yellow light or a red flag as some people call it early on, and you ignore that and you plow through it and you spend time later on only to find out that that was something that you should have uncovered months ago, that's where we're talking about something that is needlessly more expensive, and that's why we're talking about getting real. And so the expense also comes not only in money, but it comes in time and your energy. These are the things that really cost. And so going back to that story, here he says to me, gosh, we love working with loan officers, plural. And so I look and I look at him, I said, John, that's great to hear that you love working with loan officers. May I ask a question about how many do you work with? And he looks back in his chair proudly and he says, wow, probably about 10, maybe 15 at a time. And so this is where I confirmed that there was a yellow light. He's working with 10 to 15 of these. Now, I asked the question to get it out there because I wanted to confirm that this was something there. And here's where I engage in the process. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through, and I'm going to go through the process of what I went through and how this is, and then we're going to break down exactly each step and how it works so that you can look at each one of your referral partners and ask yourself, who are the yellow lights and how can you have this three-step process or three-step conversation. So what ended up happening And everything that I do in this process is deliberate. So you'll see that everything here is for a purpose. And so the moment I confirmed that this was, he'd worked with multiple ones, I took a deep breath, and it sounds like this. I like to be dramatic, and the reason why I like to be dramatic is because people are very distracted, and I want to make sure that he knows that there's a concern, right? And the next thing I did was I gently closed our book. This is the book that he was very engaged in. It showed all the marketing things that we were doing and all the value propositions, and so it was clear that there was a stop in the progress. And remember, again, this is about getting real. And he looks at me with concern, and I take a deep breath, and I say, John, I guess I've got a concern. And of course, he looks at me and he says, well, what is it? And I said, John, we've put a lot of time and energy in building our company and hiring the right people and putting a presentation like this to deliver unmatched value to clients like yourself. And it looks like you've done an amazing job of building a portfolio business. And so we do this so that, we can earn the business of people like you. Now, John, let me ask this question. If there was anything, if we showed you everything that you needed to see in terms of working with a mortgage company, would there be anything preventing you from doing business with us? Now, that is getting real. He looks back, he sits back in his chair, he takes a deep breath. He smiles, he says, well, yes, there is. And I looked at him and I smiled. I also looked over at my loan officer, who at this point, his jaw is on the floor and doesn't really know what's going on. And I said, John, I appreciate your honesty. In fact, I really appreciate your honesty. I said, would you mind sharing what that challenge would be? And then he looks over, takes another deep breath. He says, well, my brother's in the industry. And then, of course, I smiled again, a little bit more of a sigh of relief, because here I've got the truth. Now I look over at my loan officer. His jaw is on the floor. He doesn't know what to do. And I said, John, yeah, I guess that would make Christmas a little bit awkward, wouldn't it? And he looks at me and he says, yeah. I said, well, John, I think, I guess I've got another question for you. What would you need to see from us here today to at least make it a tough decision? And of course, he smiled at me and he said, Renee, gosh, man, I appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys are doing an amazing job here. But, to your point, you're absolutely right. It would make Christmas a little awkward. There probably isn't much that you could do. Family is family. And I said, John, you know what? You're a stand-up guy. I really appreciate your honesty. I'll ask you one final question. How happy is your brother at the present mortgage company he's working at? And of course, I worked a deal for at least an angle for a recruitment. So what happened there? Again, going back to failure is not getting a red light. Failure is making a red light needlessly more expensive. So here we lost the deal, or did we lose the deal? That's the question. In my perspective, we never even had a chance at the deal. But I have a loan officer who spent 10 months going after this guy and never once asked the question. 10 months he went after this guy. He never asked the question. And so when we go back to this definition of failure is not getting a red light, failure is making red lights needlessly more expensive, how many coffees, how many lunches, how many books, how many drives, how much gas time and energy did he spend on somebody that was never going to reciprocate the business that he was doing? And when I first came across this concept, it was something that was revolutionary. And what I had all our loan officers do is they wrote a list of every single referral partner that they had. And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing and to get a yellow highlighter. And you have to ask yourself, number one, when was the last time you got a referral back or a reciprocated business back from this person? And if there's something that maybe that's saying that you haven't gotten anything, or you're concerned, you're a little bit worried that maybe there's something else going on, we had them highlight them all in yellow. And their next task was to go and have this same exact conversation with them. And of course, each one's a little bit different, but the methodology is exactly the same. And this concept I've adapted it here to the mortgage industry, but I first read it when I was just coming out of college, a book called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. Now think about the power of a statement like this, of let's get real or let's just not play together. And in business, I think all too often, I watch loan officers, for some reason, and not every one of them, but for some reason, they place the referral partner on a pedestal, somebody that's so much higher than they are. And the big challenge with that is that business is a reciprocal exchange of value. Anytime you walk into a store, you have money, that store wants your money, but you want the product that they have. there is something that is an equal exchange of value. And there's no difference between a loan officer and a real estate agent. Now, some real estate agents and some loan officers have done a really good job of tipping the tides and tipping the balance of power because maybe they control the lead or done other things to really set themselves apart. But I would challenge you, if you're in this business, to make a decision to decide that you are an equal party to this. You are entitled and you deserve the same value that you give. And if you are in a relationship that isn't reciprocating that value, then how are you going to change that? How are you going to tip the tide? How are you going to make sure that you're dealing with people that truly do value? Now, of course, I'm making an assumption that you actually do have value to offer, and you have something to offer. But if you don't, that stay on this Better 52. We will be getting to the presentations segment in a few weeks here. But again, going back to this concept of do you have relationships that are reciprocal? So let's go back to what I did. The one, we had the conversation, we had a strong, first let's take a look at the assumptions. One, we had a very powerful presentation. So that allowed us and gave us the confidence to be able to have some level of leverage. Two, we began the presentation and we listened to what was going on, and listening for those yellow lights. He mentioned plural loan officers, then took the deep breath, closed the book, and asked the question. Was there anything that might prevent him? His answer was yes, his brother was in the business. Then we proceeded to stop. That's getting real. Now, if I would have not asked that question, I would have wasted another 45 minutes. We would have done follow-up. We would have figured out what's going on and how many resources would have that changed. So what's the process and how does that look like? And I'm going to give you these 3 steps on what it is. And then I want to open this up afterwards, because usually people have questions in terms of how this would work in certain scenarios. And I'm going to give you some different scenarios and how I would approach it, and specific language, because I think the language and the specific script is what really gives this the power that it has. So the first step is you got to have the courage to call it out. If you don't have the courage to get real, then this is not going to work for you. And I think that that lack of courage is going to show up in other parts of your business as well. You have to believe that you are worth it. You have to believe that your time is valuable, and you have to have the courage to at least say it, point out that there's an issue. And here's the best part about this, and there's a mindset behind this that's really, really important. The mindset is that you're on the search for truth. You're not here to strong arm anybody. You're not here to be a jerk. You're here to truly get to the bottom and to the truth. And so when you come from that perspective, it makes it a lot easier. I'm not coming back from them saying, hey, I got a problem. Why aren't you giving me business? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, I've got a concern. I said, it seems like, we've done a lot to offer value here, but I'm not seeing any referrals come from you. Have I done something wrong? And so we're going to go through what that process looks like here. But first one, if you don't have the courage, it's really hard to deal in concepts like this. And so again, first you have to have the courage to say it. So how did I do it? Number one, I like to do that sigh, something like that. And you got to do something that's for your own style. I'm okay with a little bit of drama like that, because for me, I just want to make sure that I catch their attention. Catching someone's attention, I think, is an important thing, and I want people to know that hey, there's a concern at the table here. And so what did I say? Well, I have a concern. Another way that you could say it, hey, I'm confused. Another way to say it, hey, I have to admit, I'm a little confused. And the way that these entry-level language or entry-ramp language scripts work is they allow you to go different ways with it. One is, I've heard people say, I think we may have a problem here. And we stop, but the ability for you to do that is to understand that you've identified that there's a block to the relationship. When you've identified that, you have to have the courage to say it. So now, once you've done it, step 2 would be to actually state the concern. And so I'll give you a couple different ways that you can do that. How did I do it? I said, well, John, before I even go into that piece, how did I do it in this last example? I said, John, we've done and put a lot of time and energy into putting a presentation and building a company that would offer unmatched value to people such as yourself. And if you were to see everything today that would, you're looking for in a mortgage relationship, would there be anything preventing you from stopping? And so at that point, the concern, and I also said that, and the concern that I stated was, we do this to earn 100% of your business. That's the concern. And of course, then followed up with, is there anything preventing you? That was in that specific example. Here's another way that you could do it. John, from what I can understand, it seems like you're getting a lot of business from X loan officer over here. That's one way to say it. The other one would be, my records are showing that we've sent you 35 referrals this last year, and we haven't seen any come back our ways. And that's one way of stating the concern. And another one is, John, it seems like you've indicated you're getting a lot of value out of, fill in the blank at this point. But these are three ways that you can go in to begin to state the concern, if you will. And of course, the last piece is to have the client turn it red or green. This is the biggest, most important piece. And I'm going to go back and put all three of those together, go back over those scripts one more time, because I want to put them all together for you. But the last piece is have the client turn it red or green. And this is a really important step, because what I'm asking you to do is to let go of the need to have it be green and be open to the truth. This is a piece. I need you to be open to the truth, not what you want to hear. You have to be open to the truth. And why is that so important? Because if you're not open to the truth and you're going after a green light, your whole demeanor changes, your voice inflection changes, everything changes. But if you're open to the truth, it makes the conversation a lot easier. You want the client to feel very safe being honest with you. And so that's why I said, John, would there be anything preventing you from doing business with us today, getting 100% of your business? Now, it's up to John to say yes or no, red or green. And he said, no, there wasn't. And I said, hey, John, thank you. That's why I was so grateful, and that's why I was so calm and thankful, because in my mind, I didn't see that as a failure. I saw that as a huge win. Thank God I found out now. If I would have, now, my loan officer spent 10 months doing this, but I spent 10 minutes. So I'm thinking, man, thank God we only spent 10 minutes. So I was thankful that he turned it red, because now I can move on and put my energies elsewhere. Now, if you're lacking in places to place your energy, meaning you look at every single one of your leads as your next rent check or something like that, then there are other challenges. You've got other sales process challenges. We've got to get you into the prospecting, step one of money-making activity from last week's webinar. And make sure you go back to part one on our webinar section in BetterLoanOfficers.com under the For Loan Officer section and learning section. But but at some point you have to make that decision where you are okay dealing with the people that you want to deal with and are okay dealing with you. And so you have to be open to the truth. And so going back to just these scripts, from what I can understand, let's kind of go through and let's fill one of these out fully. And so here we're saying, from what I can understand, you're getting a lot of business from, so let's pretend that we had, you signed up a realtor in some sort of marketing program, and you guys are doing some co-branded marketing and sharing costs, everything compliant, obviously. And this realtor isn't giving you any referrals back, but you're generating a ton of business from the system that you put together. But it's going one way. So how do you approach that? Of course, call Mr. or Mrs. Realtor, say, Sally, Sally, I guess I'm a little bit confused. And she says, well, what is it? Well, from what I can understand, you're getting a lot of business from the joint marketing program that we've put together, but I'm not seeing any of those referrals come back our way. And so now there's a final question here that I want you to write down, and a couple of these I want you to write down. So if you got a piece of paper and a pen, it's important that when you put it back into their court, the step 3, have the client turn it. It's really about putting it back onto their court. There's a couple words. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna change my slide here because I want you to be able to read these. I'm gonna add them right here. And a couple ways that I like to put it back is, have I done something wrong? Or am I missing something? So now, how does that sound? So let's go through and just see how that sounds in practice. So we go through and we say, Sally, from what I can understand, you're getting a lot of business, a lot of value from the joint marketing program that we're doing, but I haven't seen any of the leads come back our way. Have I done something wrong? And silence. So if you see what I did there, is the way that I asked that question, it's a gentle way of putting it back on their court, and they have to answer if there's an issue. You've confirmed that there's value, you've delivered value, you've had the courage to say it, that there's a concern, and you're asking a valid question. Maybe there was something you did wrong. Because guess what? If I did something wrong, this is why you have to be open to the truth here. Because she goes, well, yeah, actually the last time I sent you a deal, you never called them back. Again, be thankful. Be nice. Do not be defensive, because if you're defensive, if you make it hard for her to tell you the truth, guess what? Your referral partners are never going to tell you the truth, and you'll never improve your business. So it's important to have that mindset of being open to hearing that. And so a lot of people say, well, have I done something wrong? It seems manipulative. No, you're asking for the truth here. But you have to have the courage to be silent afterwards. So let's look at, am I missing something? Same thing. Say, Sally, it seems like as though you're getting a lot of value from the joint marketing program that we're both working on here, but yet to see any referrals come back our way. Am I missing something? And again, don't say, am I missing something? Because it seems like blah, 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 and you start talking. No, then you've lost the power of the question. Have I done something wrong? Am I missing something? So those questions, you have to practice that. Now, you hear my voice inflection. That's after years of practice. We've if you're familiar with the study on communication, words only make up about 7% of the impact that you make on people. But the voice inflection makes up 38% of the impact. So if I say to you, hey, great job, or great job, both mean completely different things. And so when you say this, it's not saying, have I done something wrong? Now that sounds accusatory. They're not going to answer you. In fact, they may not want to do business with you if you ask them, hey, am I missing something? Now that sounds entitled. But here's the question: is you have to be truly inquisitive. You have to be truly open. Say, hey, John, have I done something wrong? And really be open to that. Because if I have, I really would like to know. And at that point, what it does is it opens the conversation to get real. Because if he says, no, I haven't done anything wrong, I said, well, John, I'm confused. I see this as a two-sided relationship. It's something that goes both ways. And are you telling me that this is not going to go both ways? And I would take that even further to confirm. If he says, well, actually, I like, that's another yellow light, obviously, if he says that. And then, of course, you have to dig to the truth. But I think I like to see this in 3 steps to be able to get and have that conversation. What I have found more often than not is that when you have that, you ask the question, you ask it correctly, have I done something wrong? They're going to say, you know what, Renee, you're absolutely right. I've been slacking on that arena. Let me see what I can do. And more often than not, you'll get a referral that day, because what you've done is you've politely given them a chance to save face. You've politely gotten real, and more importantly, you've shown that you're a true professional. Because last time I checked, I think most of us on this call are in a for-profit business, and so that means you have to make some money, and that's an okay thing to do. I think we have to stop apologizing for wanting to make money. That's part of business. You got families to feed, you've got goals to achieve, you've got bills to pay, all sorts of things that you want to do. So again, how does it that we get real? So we do that. So let's go through the next one here. So my records are showing that we have sent. So this is important. If you're one of the good ones and can calculate how many referrals you've sent your referral partners, I think it's a really good thing to do. You should know how many deals you send, because if you do that, do the math on what one deal is and how much money you've made your realtor if you sent them a transaction. And if you haven't done the math, do the math, because you know the value of just one referral. And if you give one referral a month or 5 referrals in a year, or even 10, you are changing a career. You are changing a life by that amount of referrals. I mean, the thousands of dollars you're generating for that individual. And you have the right, you've earned the right to then ask for reciprocal business. And if not, your job is to take that value and invest it somewhere else. And so in this case, if you track your referrals and you go and you've had the courage to say it, say, I have a concern. My records are showing that we've sent you 13 referrals this last year, and those 13 referrals have turned into at least 10 deals for you. Now those 10 deals, I think you make on average about $3,000. It's over 30. What's that? 10 referrals. It's wow. What's that? What's the math on that? I don't remember. I'm going too fast. And do the math. Well, you can hire me to teach you math, so let's remember that. So my records are showing that we've sent 13 referrals this last year. 30,000. Thank you. And but yet we haven't seen any come our way. Have I done something wrong? Or hey, am I missing something? And so now, at that point, again, you're putting it back into their court to have them turn it red or green. And of course, the last one, it says, hey, John, you've indicated that you're getting a lot of value out of X, Y, and Z, out of the program that we've stated here, out of the relationship, but yet I'm not seeing anything come back our way. Have I done something wrong? So I think you get the point. And so I'm going to give you a couple tips. These are real simple tips, and then I want to move into some open questions. Number one, silence is your friend. If you want to really understand the power of silence, just Google the power of silence in negotiation. You're going to see white paper after white paper, research study after research study on the importance of silence. And you have to, and the comfort with silence begins with yourself. How comfortable are you in your position in terms of what's going on? If you don't feel like you've added any value, that silence is going to suck for you, because only thing that's going to come at the end of that is truth that you really haven't added value. And guess what? It's a sobering thing to get. And if you're not adding value, the best time to figure that out is right now or even yesterday. So be open to the truth. If you're not adding value, you want to know this. And then the question would be, so what would you need to see from me to experience more value? Or what could I do better? Could you give me some feedback? One of the best lessons I get are when people turn me down for something, because I'll go back and say, hey, first of all, I want to thank you for being honest and saying no to what it is we're doing. And most often than not, people do say no because several reasons. One, they don't like the person they do business with, but I think you and I got along pretty well. But more often than not, it's just because the value wasn't communicated. Could you give me feedback as to why you said no? And the list of things of why I got no has become some of the most powerful pieces of insight that I've ever gotten, because it gave me a pathway to improve my business. And I do believe in continuous improvement for myself personally, also for my business, and those that I do business with and that I work with. So silence, again, is your friend. And you've got to be open. You have to be open to whatever that is. Again, I cannot stress that. If you are not open to that, your voice is going to change. No one's going to tell you the truth. And if no one tells you the truth, you're going to have bad data. And if you have bad data, you're going to make bad decisions. If you have bad decisions, you're not going to like the results. So be open to the truth. And the last tip here is one of my favorite questions. What would you need to see from me to make a decision today? What would you need to see from me to make us your number one choice? What would you need to see from me to at least make it a tough choice? And that's one of my favorite questions when I'm up against what's called an incumbent. An incumbent is someone that already has the business that you're going after. Let's say somebody already has a loan officer or a referral partner that they're giving their business to, and they've stated, hey, I've got a pretty strong relationship here. And I say, hey, you know what? Not a problem. I'm not here to try to change any of that, but I do have a question for you. And this is more for my own learning, but what would you need to see from me to at least make it a tough choice? And you know what? They gotta respect a question like that, because they know that you're not going to get the business, but you're at least willing to say, I want to at least be a tough choice, because what that's saying is that I want to deliver value. I want to constantly improve. I know I'm not the number one guy right now, but man, what would I have to do to make it a hard choice? And that's just, anybody who's in the sales profession is going to respect that question. And if you're like me, man, get excited about a question like that, because it at least gives you a fallback place. But it comes back to, what's that philosophy of why you're even doing this business? What's a philosophy of what you're engaged in and what you believe about being in sales? So we're at 12:37, and what I'd like to do is go back to opening this up for questions and people that would like have any specific applications of how this would work. So I see some people that I recognize here, and if I know you, I might even call you out. But I think, Brian, do we have the ability to raise our hands or ask a question? You can type it in. We might even try to unmute somebody, because that might be good. I'm just going to name names of people that I know. We got Gary Harwin, Jerry Santoro. How's it going, guys? Lisa, and Mike Mandis, Mike Mosier. What's going on? Nina Nazar. You guys got to ask him questions. I know you guys. So let's see. Let's raise a hand, and let's get some questions going. How we can apply this. Again, don't give us silence here. Otherwise, I'm just going to call you guys out. Oh, Sean Guerrero. I know Sean's got some questions, unless he got on last minute. So again, raise your hand. How can we apply this concept here? And if you don't know how to raise your hand, I don't know. Just maybe type a question in, and we'll try to call on you.
Here, I'll unmute Gary. Give me 1 second. Gary, you ready? Gary, you there?
Is that Gary Harwin?
Yes.
He might be on mute. If not, let's get Sean Guerrero. If he's not.
Here, I'll jump. Give me a second.
Yeah, he's only speaker only. Yep. And he said the power of silence. So Gary's on. How about Sean Guerrero? Let's get Sean on there. Let's.
Okay.
He's still on.
Sean, are you there?
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot, buddy. Now, did you just get on last minute? I think he's muting his microphone. And if anybody else has a question, we're just going to go with, let's see here. Sean, are you there? Well, let me ask this question. You guys can type it in as well. Would you like to see other examples? And if anybody has another example they'd like to see, if not, I'm just going to go forward with the introduction to Better Loan Officers, which is totally fine. All right, I'm going to go forward with that because the silence of dead space on a webinar is no fun. So we're gonna go forward with that. Okay, here's a try, but the mic is muted. All right, so can you unmute Sean? Let's see. I'll try to unmute him.
Here, we'll
unmute Sean. I got him. Sean, are you there?
There we go.
Sean. So Sean, you got to turn on your speakers as you talk. Can you hear?
Is it echoing?
No, it's good.
Awesome.
Yeah, talk to me.
So in that situation where you were sitting down with the other loan officer and you guys were sitting there with the gentleman who had a brother-in-law inside of the business, how would you have, if you would have opened up the door and said, you know, I have a loan officer that I really like, but I'm not married to this situation, how would you have proceeded after that? Because sometimes you got to speed through the yellow lights.
Well, so I wouldn't see it as yellow light. I'd see it as an opportunity at that point. When he's saying he's not married to the situation, to me, he just opened up. He said, keep going. The light, it's still red, or it's still green. Because he's saying, yeah, I've got somebody that I'm working with, but I'm not married to. To me, that's an invitation to keep going. And so at that point, I mean, first, I like to know exactly what I'm dealing with. Okay, so would you be able to share who that person with me? Now, you may not get answers to all these questions. What bank are they with? You know, I may know them because I'd want to. You know, I don't want to step on somebody's toes. A friend of mine, and you know, the industry is a little bit small, and things like that. And if they don't want to share, that's fine. I say, okay, so talk to me. I said, I think you know and this is what I would do. And the first thing I like to do is to really create a strong frame of where we're coming from and a frame for the relationship. And here's what I mean by that. I personally believe that if you're in real estate, if you're in mortgage, your reputation is everything. And when you hand off a referral, you're handing off the risk. You're also trusting somebody with your reputation, and there's a huge risk in that. And so I would want to remind that real estate agent the importance of that. And so I'd begin with something along these lines. I said, you know, let's say the real estate agent was John. Or let's say it's you, Sean. You're the real estate agent. And I'd say, Sean, I said, you've been in this business a long time, and I think you'd agree with me that your reputation is probably one of the most important things you have. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And so what you shared with me, and this is what I've learned, is that any time that I refer somebody, I'm also putting my reputation in their hands. And so that referral relationship is probably one of the most important things. Now, Sean, are you the type of person that vets out those relationships, or do you like to hand out 3 business cards and try to mitigate your risk, and hopefully that you won't be implicated if there's any bad service? Which one would you say that you are?
My broker's always told me to hand out 3 cards.
And what was their rationale, and what's your rationale behind that? You see what I'm doing is I'm asking a lot of questions. I want to understand this person before I ask for anything. So what's your rationale for that, Sean, for handing out 3?
It's just something I've been taught since I've been in the industry. As real estate agents, we hand out 3 business cards.
You know, what's funny is I think about that example all the time because, Sean, you're not the only one who does something like that. But I'd like to offer you a different perspective, and because I used to do that too when we did it. And the reason I did that was because I just didn't trust. I didn't know who the other end of that transaction was, and I wasn't sure if that person was going to represent things. But then at one point, one of my mentors told me, he said, Renee, part of your job as a trusted advisor is to do the work of vetting out who you do business with and making sure that you do business with professionals, people that are going to truly carry out your brand and deliver the level of service that you think you deserve and your clients deserve. And so that really was a big eye-opener for me. And so I started doing a lot of research, and that's one of the reasons, Sean, that I reached out to you, is because I've heard a lot of fantastic things about you, and from what I can understand, you're one of those people that I would feel very confident in giving referrals to. And so what you just shared with me is that you said you have somebody that you give referrals to, but yet you're not married to the situation. is there any reason why this person, you aren't raving about what they're doing? Is there something missing for you, or maybe they are fantastic? I don't know. How would you describe your current relationship? So you see what I just did there? I gave him a frame as to where I'm coming from. I offered a different way of thinking about the referral relationship. But then at that point, I also indicated and pointed out something that he wasn't raving about this person after the frame that I said that we probably should be raving about whoever it is that we do business with. And I'm giving him an open door to talk about either this person isn't as good as I thought, but I'm also not leading him too far either, because I want to make sure he's open to saying, no, this guy's fantastic, because I want to see if it's, what the relationship is. Again, I'm going for truth. This is a true interview. And again, if this seems like a lot, I'm only about a minute and a half into this conversation, and we sit down for hours sometimes talking to referral partners. So don't get hung up on how long this feels, but try to follow the methodology. So I just asked you, Sean, I said, so you said you're not married to the situation, so you're not really raving about them. What is it about them that you don't feel like you have to rave about what's going on and why you're not married to it?
I just haven't been wowed. I mean, there's nothing different between them and lender B.
But you did choose him for a reason. What was the reason?
Real nice guy, very personable. But like I said, there's nothing that just really stands out.
And now, Sean, stepping out of the role play for a minute. Now, would you say that's a common relationship? That's one I've seen a lot. But if you notice, what I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to pounce on the first opportunity. I'm really trying to get a lay of the landscape. I want to know specifically, and what I have found over, 18 years of doing this kind of work is that most people don't give you all the information up front, and so I've learned to kind of reserve that need to pounce on the first opportunity they open up, because I've only done that sometimes too fast, only to find out that I didn't ask all the right questions, and so I ask a lot of questions. And so what you just told me was that it sounds like, well, you haven't been wowed, and Sean, I mean, you haven't been wowed, and they seem like they're a nice person, but nothing that's out of the ordinary. So Sean, pausing this for a minute, you just said they haven't wowed me, so I want to know what wow means to you. Here's again, and if you guys want to write this down, the other thing is that I make no assumptions ever. I ask everything. Making assumptions is one of the biggest killers. So if I assume, and how do I make an assumption? Is I assume I know what wowing means to him. And so I would ask, so Sean, I love the concept of wow, and I have a great story to share with you about that. But before I assume what that means, what does that mean to you? What does wow look like? What's your vision of a perfect relationship or perfect transaction?
That I don't have to call for updates. The updates are provided in advance. If we can, close early, and make sure that the pre-approval sticks every single time.
So here's what's interesting. Now, stepping out of character here again, you talked about communication, you talked about closing early, and you talked about pre-approvals. If in my business, a wow would have meant from a service standpoint. And so if I would have taken your concept of wow, I would have told a story around service. And I would have completely missed what was actually valuable to you. I would have told a story, and this is one of those pieces that I'll tell anyways, but this is a story I would have told. I said, Sean, it's interesting. Wow is one of the things that we measure success in our company, and this is actually true. We did this at the mortgage company I owned. And we teach loan officers to look for those moments, and the way we do that is just by having them listen. And I'll tell you the story about Sally, one of our loan officers, and she was listening to taking an application. The mother came in, and she was feeding her daughter Ritz crackers, and as she was taking the application, she looked at her and she said, wow, if we didn't have these Ritz, I don't know how we'd survive. And she's feeding her Ritz crackers. And all of this Sally did was she wrote down Ritz on the application. When the loan closed and the house was delivered, Sally went out to Costco and bought a monster-sized box of Ritz, put a bow on it, left it on the house, left it on the counter, and with a little note that said, congratulations on your new home. Hope this makes the first few days just a little bit easier. And to me, Sean, that's what a wow is. So that's where I would have, by listening to him and to this realtor, hearing that wows were important, now at this point I would have done that. But I think your question at the beginning, Sean, was what would I do if they've got an incumbent, they're already dealing with somebody, but then they say they're not married to the situation. Again, the process is to interview, ask the questions, and really dig deep in terms of what they see, and really try to get them to open up for what those opportunities are for them to be able to then go in and offer your value. And so from a closing perspective, now, Sean, I know that you've got that relationship there. Yeah, I guess, Sean, what would you need to see from me to at least give us a chance at one of your next transactions?
I probably need to see how you interact on a transaction.
Okay, and so let me ask you, what would be the best way to see that?
Well, we'd have to work on a deal together.
I couldn't agree with you more, Sean. Who comes to mind as somebody that we could work on with together? So again, now let's go. Let's step out of this now, Sean. Does that answer the question that you'd begun with?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you basically laid out a pathway to open that door more, or basically identify that it is a green light and not a yellow one.
Perfect. So I got Michael Mandis asking a question. It says, when a realtor tells me, in fact, let's try to, and Sean, thank you. Michael, do you have a microphone? Because then we could just unmute you, and we can go through it. Let's try, I'm going to try to unmute Michael Mandis if I can find him here. And we'll go through this question.
Mike is unmuted.
Okay. Michael, are you there?
Oh, he doesn't have a mic.
He might not have a microphone. Let me read his question out loud. It says, when a realtor tells me that they have been working with a loan officer for years and they are loyal to them, I always ask, whose business are you more loyal to, your business or their business? Loyalty is important, but you're not only loyal, you are not in the loyalty business, you are in the business to make money and to serve better clients. So he's offering his tip. So what I hear Michael saying is really to get to ask the tough question around. And I think what Mike's referring to here is that, yeah, you're loyal to this person, but are they helping your business grow and really helping the realtor reframe what's best for their business? Because sometimes people get caught up in loyalty, but they forget that they're running a for-profit business. That's an excellent tip, Mike. Absolutely. And so we're getting towards the end of our time here. And first I want to thank everybody. And Randall, thank you for your comments there. So it was a fabulous presentation, and he wants to see more. So we're getting to the end of our time, and so the way this is structured, we're going to go through and deliver a tip, some sort of webinar value to you, and then at the end, do an brief overview of how Better Loan Officers works. If you're not a member, I'd urge you to join. Everybody in the mortgage industry, we have every single loan originator with an NMLS ID has an account. Go in and claim your profile. It is for free, and if you found value in this, there's also a ton of value by becoming a professional member.